You know that weird feeling when you finally start making more money, but somehow it feels like you actually have less of it? Yeah, it's pretty frustrating. Let's dive right into this explainer and discover how behavioral science can finally fix our flawed financial habits. Welcome to The Architecture of Wealth, Systems over Willpower.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We'll start with the lifestyle inflation trap, then look at why willpower always fails, how to start small with tiny habits, build systems with atomic habits, and finally automate using behavioral nudges.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, the lifestyle inflation trap.
Seriously, have you ever noticed that the second your income goes up, your spending just naturally and quietly inflates right alongside it, leaving your savings completely flat? It's a phenomenon called lifestyle inflation, and honestly, it happens to almost everyone. Here's the deal. When your paycheck grows, it sends this incredibly subtle psychological signal to your brain, whispering that you've earned the right to spend more. So instead of taking that extra cash and, investing it for your future, we upgrade our daily life. We rent a slightly nicer apartment, buy fancier groceries, maybe get takeout a few more times a week. But the real danger here, it's the fixed costs. Because once you sign a lease for that nicer place or get a pricier car payment, you're permanently locked into higher spending every single month. And that makes it mathematically so much harder to actually build wealth.
So why do we do this? Well, it boils down to something called hedonic adaptation. Basically, it's our innate psychological tendency to quickly bounce back to a baseline level of happiness. In plain English, our brains are literally wired to crave upgrades, but we adapt to those upgrades almost instantly. That exciting new car or that spacious new apartment loses its thrill way faster than you'd expect. So you end up on this treadmill, spending more, endlessly chasing that initial spark of luxury, but you never quite catch it. What once felt like a massive treat rapidly just feels totally basic. This psychological trap is exactly what locks us into those higher fixed costs, all while our long-term financial dreams just quietly get pushed back year after year.
Which leads us to Section 2, why willpower always fails.
A lot of times, we beat ourselves up and frame overspending as just a simple lack of self-control. We try to push this incredibly heavy boulder up a steep hill using pure willpower, basically telling ourselves that we'll just try harder to save this month. But here's the truth. Relying on pure discipline is a completely losing strategy. Why? Because you aren't just fighting everyday temptation. You are going up against your brain's deep-rooted evolutionary drive for reward and comfort. Think of willpower like the battery on your smartphone. It constantly depletes throughout the day as you make decisions. The behavioral science approach, on the other hand, proves that you have to take willpower completely out of the equation. Instead of constantly fighting your natural tendencies, you have to engineer your environment. You set things up so the right financial choices just happen automatically, even when your internal battery is completely at 0%.
Moving right along to Section 3, start small with tiny habits.
If you're struggling to even get started, we need to talk about Stanford researcher B.J. Fogg. His behavior model relies on one foundational formula, B equals MAP. That means a behavior only happens when motivation, ability, and a prompt all converge at the exact same moment. If you miss even one of those three things, the behavior just doesn't happen. Now, the huge problem with traditional financial advice is that it relies way too heavily on motivation. And let's be real, motivation constantly fluctuates, right? It changes based on your mood, your stress levels, whether you got enough sleep. Because motivation is totally unreliable, Fogg recommends tweaking a different variable, ability. You have to shrink the required ability down to practically zero. You make the new financial behavior so ridiculously small, like something that takes under 30 seconds to complete, that your motivation level barely even matters anymore. You literally make it so easy you cannot fail.
So how do we actually put that into practice? Fogg's ABC method gives us the exact blueprint. Step 1 is the anchor. You attach your new habit to a routine you already do every single day without fail. Step 2 is the behavior. Perform that tiny 30-second action. And step 3 is the celebration. Instantly create a feeling of success. Let's look at an example. Right after you pour your morning coffee, boom, that's your rock-solid anchor. You open your banking app and transfer just $1 single into your savings account. That's the behavior. Then you instantly celebrate. I know, doing a quick fist pump, smiling, or whispering yes might feel a little goofy at first, but hear me out, it is biologically necessary. It actually wires positive emotion directly into your brain. Your brain codes that exact sequence as a reward, which absolutely forces the habit to stick.
Now, while Fogg's emotion-first approach gets you off the launch pad by completely lowering the barrier to entry, James Clear's identity-first approach from his framework of atomic habits is what actually sustains it over time. These two brilliant behavioral concepts really go hand in hand.
If you're feeling totally paralyzed and can't even start, you absolutely need the Tiny Habits method to secure a quick, effortless win. But once you've got that first 30-day streak going, you need systems to survive the inevitable drop in motivation. That's exactly where shifting to an identity-first approach comes in, allowing you to scale up those daily actions and build serious wealth over the long haul.
Let's dive deeper into that with Section 4, Build Systems with Atomic Habits.
Claire's 1% rule proves something mathematically astounding. Improving your finances by just 1 measly percent a day actually compounds into a staggering 37 times improvement over a single year. It completely changes how we view progress. We so often think that massive financial success requires these drastic, painful overnight changes, right? Which of course just leads to highly restrictive budgeting and eventually total burnout. But the math shows us that getting your finances in order doesn't have to be a miserable overhaul of your entire life. It is entirely about taking baby steps and letting that consistent daily progress compound into massive financial growth. Think of it like this. The interest on your habits compounds exactly like the interest in your bank account.
By applying Clear's 4 laws of behavior change to your finances, you stop stressing over some distant, intimidating financial goal, and instead, you start building a bulletproof daily system. First, make it obvious. Put a picture of your financial goal right there on the fridge, so your target is literally always staring back at you. Second, make it attractive. Gamify your savings with fun challenges or link saving money to a reward so you don't feel constantly deprived. Third, make it easy. Set up automated splits from your paycheck so directing money into investments takes zero physical effort. You don't even have to think about it. And fourth, make it satisfying. Visibly track your progress on a chart and actually celebrate those milestones so your brain clearly sees the tangible results of all your hard work.
James Clear hit the nail on the head when he said, "You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems." Honestly, a goal is basically just a wish without a plan. You can want to be a millionaire all you want, but true habit formation is ultimately an identity project. When you redesign your daily system, you stop being just someone who is trying to save a little money. You fundamentally become an investor. Financial success isn't about wishing to be rich. It's about becoming the kind of person whose daily environment makes building wealth the path of absolutely least resistance.
And that brings us to Section 5, Automate using behavioral nudges.
Now, let's explore a fascinating concept used by behavioral economists at a massive institutional level. Nobel laureate Richard Thaler proved that simply changing the default option in a company's retirement plan from opt-in to automatic enrollment massively boosts total savings. This idea is called libertarian paternalism. Kind of a mouthful, I know, but it basically means designing the architecture of choices to gently nudge people toward better financial decisions without ever restricting their actual freedom to choose something else. When the default path requires absolutely zero effort from you, human laziness actually works entirely in favor of your financial security instead of working against it. It's brilliant.
And get this, we can actually hack our own psychology to save more over time using Thaler's Save More Tomorrow, or SMART plan. See, human beings suffer from severe loss aversion. We absolutely hate seeing our paycheck shrink. The SMART plan solves this by automatically committing a portion of your future pay raises to your savings. So say you get a 3% raise at work, your savings contribution automatically goes up by just 1%. This effectively bypasses our innate loss aversion because your actual take-home paycheck never ever goes down. You commit to saving more before you ever even see that extra money hit your checking account, which completely neutralizes lifestyle inflation before it even has a chance to start. So the huge takeaway from this explainer is that you do not need immense willpower to be wealthy. No way. You just need to be a smart architect of your own environment. The behavioral science clearly shows us that our brains will always naturally seek out comfort and upgrades. But by combining B.J. Fogg's tiny anchors to finally get started, James Clear's compounding systems to build a new identity, and Richard Thaler's automated nudges to eliminate human error, well, you can build a protective architecture around your money where wealth generation becomes entirely inevitable. As we wrap up, I want you to take a real look at your own financial friction points. Think about where your willpower drains the absolute fastest. Whether it's setting up a 30-second transfer right after your morning coffee or automating a 1% escalation in your workplace retirement plan, what is the single, smallest system you can redesign today to bypass your willpower and put your wealth on autopilot?